What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Shifts and Stories, a podcast where we'll hear about the mental shifts and the stories behind it with my clients and the people that they've become from them. Today we have Mario Browne. Welcome, brother. How are you?
I appreciate you, brother. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for being here today. Let's jump right into this thing, man. Who are you?
I'm a dad, a real estate professional, son, brother, just black man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Black man, black man. Yeah. Pharrell and Jay-Z, that's a good song.
Yeah.
So you listed who you are to different people.
Yeah.
Internally, who are you? Do you know that question? Do you know that answer?
So I don't really stop to think about it much. I know that internally there's a lot of conversations that happen on a daily basis. I find that, I'm a person that is very strong-minded, to say the least, and that kind of is what drives everything that I do. Can be a little bit stubborn at the same time. That might come with being a man.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, just constant work in progress, I'd say I am, but definitely striving to achieve this level, right, of excellence in different compartments of my life. So I'd say I'm driven at the same time.
Yeah, I think that is a good question to not only ask yourself, but to ask other people.
Yeah.
One time I had an individual ask me, "Who are you?" And this was sometime after football and sometime into being a business owner.
Yeah.
And I had to pause
Yeah.
because I didn't know. I knew that I was those things that you mentioned, a son. I knew that I was a brother, a cousin,
Yeah.
an uncle. I knew I was a man of God.
Yeah.
I knew those things, but who was I?
Yeah.
And answering that question allowed me to go on a journey to find out my purpose for being here on this earth. What did God have for me? And I think that's where we find the answer to the question, who am I? Not those things that, people can see outwardly. Yes, I know that you are a daddy. But internally, who are you? And that journey allowed me to then show outwardly what God wanted me to be.
Yeah.
So I asked that question again of who are you? And after hearing what I just said, what comes to mind?
It's amazing because yesterday I just listened to a sermon and it had a lot to do with true identity, right? It was being bought in to what your true identity is and discovering that, knowing that, okay, so God had an idea of what he completely envisioned who he wanted you to become before he even created you.
Correct.
And so you have to believe that in order for you to pursue your greatness. And you have to have a good understanding of what your identity is, and you have to know that that's magnificent. I think it takes a while sometimes to get there because we go through life and we put on all of these additional layers, and it doesn't necessarily mean who we become is who we were planned to be, And so for me, I'd say I think that there's a lot of king nature within me, but I think that there's a lot of shedding of worldly things.
Oh, yes.
That I have to do in order to kind of get to it.
Yeah.
Right. But I see it in there. It's in there. Right. And striving to get back to who I truly am is a daily work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, being a Christian, being a black man, being a godly man, being a leader, is a step daily.
Yeah.
Right. I remember early in my journey, I tried to make Christianity and my walk with God an entrepreneurial type of idea, right, where I had boxes and I wanted to check those things off for God, and it doesn't work that way. It quickly humbled me to realize that, okay, cool, I need to walk by faith every day, and every day is a step towards being a better version of myself. And I think the earlier you can find that this journey is a day by day faith walk, the much better off you'll be. Just like in the fitness world, right? Like you have to be brick by brick. You know, you're not going to do a curl today and see muscles tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the same thing on this Christian walk. You have to literally go step by step, have faith by faith on a day by day basis in order to achieve it. And I'm not going to continue to do this talking. I'm going to let you talk again, but you talking about where you currently are reminded me of a story of Moses. And Moses was a guy who didn't have an identity because he was sent off as a baby, right? And then raised as a prince, who then fled this kingdom to live with another type of people. So he was born this, raised as this, and then as a man, he's over here. So he's in 3 different places and he didn't have an identity. And God took him on a journey to find that. And the things that God wanted him to do, he struggled with because much like you just said, he had 3 different worldly identities that he associated with. And it wasn't until he was able to spend time and commune with God on a daily basis, separate himself from all of these other things to where he found out who he was and what God actually wanted him to do.
Wow. I think that's powerful because for me, a lot to do with me even being in Durham had a lot to do with me taking a journey. It was almost like leaving home for the first time, right? And coming out in some distant land, you know, me and my small immediate family that I created, right? And starting fresh. A lot of what I left, you know, was everything that I was used to. Family, friends, a lot of positive things, right? But also some other things that would distract me from whatever God was trying to tell me or what he wanted me to do. And then I found a place where he then isolated me and a lot of distractions were no longer there. And once I got here, I found myself trying to blend in. You know, sometimes like we don't want the burden of being seen, followed, and what comes along with that when we're already dealing with a lot of other things. So when you first met me, you probably see me, I'd be in the gym, headphones on, somewhere in the corner, pounding weights. And it took a little convincing before I started to join group trainings. And it started with me and one other person just training with you. Nah, before that, it was me doing online training because I knew that I could still do that by myself. And then I kind of got to the small group, and then I finally made my way to the large group. In the large group, there's nowhere to hide. You know, we all see you, and we want to pull out of you whatever great is in you. And we've seen glimpses of it, but we also know that you don't bring that every day. So here's the burden. The burden is now that you've seen what I can do, I can't just bring that when I feel like it.
You got to do it every day.
I got to bring it every day. And now I got the accountability of a whole community, whether or not I ask for it every day or not. Right? And so I think that sometimes God's just not going to allow us to just stay in the shadows if that's where he meant, if he didn't mean for us to be in the shadows. He's going to put us front. He's going to put us in the light. No, you will, you know, one way or another, be what I called you to be. And if you continue to resist, life's not going to go the way that you want it to be. You know, so I think that that's been a big part of my journey.
I really don't recall our meeting of one another. And so you're telling me the story of you being by yourself and then in a small group and then joining a larger group. I don't remember that at all. So what about me allowed you to be pulled out of that isolation?
I think what it was is I was in general brokerage at that time, and I had odd hours that I would just come into the gym. It would be the same time I think that you did your group trainings. What led me here in the first place is I was looking for another Black-owned gym as I was becoming a Black entrepreneur myself. And so I intentionally sought this place. And once I got here, I would come here at hours that you were present. And you would either be working out or you would be training people. I think your presence fills up the room. You speak to everybody that walks through the doors. So at some point or another, they're going to know you or feel like they know you. And I think that you started to see and notice, he's here consistently. And then I started to enroll in some of the smaller things like the online training, right? And then you would see, okay, he's developing, and you had another trainer, and we would be talking, because at one point I had a newborn while I was here. And so I would be sharing some of that, like, yeah, I'm tired today because of this, that, and the third. So it just was very organic. And then from there, it was me and Ebony were training under you. Remember that?
Okay.
And that was your. It
was like a hybrid.
Hybrid model.
Yeah.
And then from there, hybrid. Then there was a next level that we had to go at that point, and eventually, I think you found a way to navigate us there. I ended up there. The next thing, I think she ended up in there too.
Was this near COVID time?
Oh yeah, at COVID, the whole isolation thing had ended shortly before that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I definitely try to fill up a room, right? I think it's very important for people to feel wanted.
Yeah.
Within my space, right?
Yeah.
This is my space, and I feel obligated to make people feel comfortable, right? Like, I want you to be here, and if you want to sit on these couches for 2-3 hours after you worked out, then by all means, do so.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of environment that I've tried to cultivate here, in terms of a community. But you mentioned me seeing different glimpses of you. Did you yourself see those glimpses that I saw?
Yeah. I knew I was getting stronger.
Yeah.
And I think I had a way of kind of just locking into this peaceful place in my head, right? When I was going through these online workouts, it was like, this was my one time in the day to where I could just pour into me. I knew I had a lot of responsibilities before I come in and before I left. But while I was here, I could lock into this and I could build up myself, and I could look in these mirrors and I could see myself getting stronger. I could increase these weights, and now I'm growing and I'm feeling better about me. That's what it was about for me. It was initially about me kind of just uplifting myself. During that COVID journey, it was a lot of weight gain, right? There was a lot of, eating out of, your ordinary. You move down to North Carolina, you find that there's fast food everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that was exciting. I'm like, oh, what's the cookout? I gained so much weight. And, and then having my second child at that time. So it was like, where was I gonna, pour into me?
Yeah.
And I found that in here.
Yeah, that's good. So pouring into yourself in a physical manner. Earlier in the conversation, talked about spiritual. Let's talk about emotional and mental right now. And I know all of those things work together.
Yeah.
But how have I, as a man, in this place, or me just personally, been able to embark my wisdom, or impart rather, excuse me, my wisdom or just my being into your life?
Yeah, I think that you have a way of ministering to the group, so to speak. I found out earlier on when we had Club Prime, sometimes you would open up and you would just talk about life, and then you would connect it, to faith, right? And then sometimes before group trainings, you would do that as well. And then it would just have you thinking, right? You're getting mentally prepared as an athlete in this group, about where you needed to be, not only today in preparation for this workout, but where you need to be mentally outside of here too.
Yeah.
And so that for me was powerful, and that's what helped me buy in early on.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So you've been a member of Prime at this point 3-4 years.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, you're not the same person that you were when you walked in.
Yeah.
What's different about you?
Mentality wise and endurance wise, I think I've grown in a lot of ways.
Talk
When
about them.
when I first started here at Prime, I would talk about how, hey, this trainer, this is outside of the gym, this trainer, he mentions faith, and then he mentions influence of his father a lot. And some of the things that you were talking about as far as the tools that your father gave you, we now are digesting, processing, right? And trying to implement them into our daily lives. So it wasn't just you, it's also the things that he gave you.
My dad, yeah.
Yeah. And so then that has influence on some of the other men, maybe even the women too, in the gym who may have actually had good fathers, right? But there's certain tools and there's extra attention, I think, in your journey, not just as his son, but also as his son as an athlete as well. You mentioned how he was, influential in your academic and athletic journey as a small child on, and that has a lot to do with a lot of hands-on work.
Yeah.
So I think that you do that here with us as well. It's not uncommon for Desmond Scott to say, yeah, I remember my dad told me, and it'll be relevant to something to it'll be relevant to the plan of attack for the day.
Yeah.
This is the mentality that you need to have today. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy when you come in here.
Yeah.
If you're looking for, a leisurely walk, you're not going to get that
It's not
in these
gonna be here.
workouts,
Yeah.
right? You're going to be pushed. You're going to be challenged, right? Because I'm trying to grow you. We got somewhere we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk directly to how those examples of me saying, hey, look, this is the work for the day. We either gonna do it or we not, right? There's no in between. We're either getting better or we're getting worse. We never stay the same. Talk directly to how that has benefited you outside of the gym.
Yeah, because I have to attack the other things in my life that are difficult in the same way that I attack these things. There's something that I say to myself, the weight's not going anywhere. This isn't an environment to where just because you don't feel like it today, we're going to peel back. That's not what's going to happen. Also doesn't happen outside in the workforce. It also doesn't happen as your responsibility as a father. It doesn't happen as your responsibilities in any other compartment of your life. The work is the work.
The work is the work.
Now, what are we going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's better we attack it than it attack us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think many people run away from the work. They run away from it. And I think it's very ideal
Yeah,
to, much like you just said, to attack it.
yeah,
But you have to be well equipped and have many tools in the toolbox
Yeah.
to figure out how you're going to actually attack it.
yeah.
What version of yourself do you have to be to be able to allow this situation not to fold you?
Yeah.
So you mentioned at the start of the convo that you were in a place where you were leaving home and coming to a place of isolation. Could we also say that you felt stuck? Could we use that
Yeah.
word?
Yeah, I think a lot of things were happening, right? At home, where I was born, where I grew up, I did. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of responsibility, and I was also looked to as a leader in my tribe too, at home. With that, also, I had a lot of expectations for my life, and I couldn't figure out where I needed to go or what I needed to do to kind of get above what I felt like was the ceiling. Every time I'd climb, it would just be limitations. And I said, I'm one of the few people that haven't left here on a journey. At some point, a lot of people in my family left and come back. I hadn't gone anywhere, right? And so I made a plan, and coming here was intentional. I knew what my career path was. I knew I wanted to build a family. And I started to research where was the best place to go for that. So that was step one for me. I prayed on it. Before I came here, I had COVID.
Yeah.
So when we talk about isolation, I literally I had COVID. I had to pack my family up. I got one of these trailers that they move the whole house for you. I packed it up with COVID.
Yeah.
I sent them to protect them from getting COVID. And then I pretty much isolated myself for 2 weeks and then drove myself down. In those 2 weeks of being alone, I felt like I had a closer connection with God more than ever.
Yeah.
It's me and him, and I'm praying, and I treat my asthma and all of the COVID symptoms, and me and my doctor, we would text message. And then I finally were able to recover enough, in order to make my way down here. Once I got down here, now the responsibility is for me to make this work.
Yeah.
And so a lot of challenges come with that, right? And so when we are at a point where, I think we're seeking direction, in my experience, the first is to look to God, right? The next is when we are in an area or a particular discipline that we want to grow, we got to look to those who have been accomplished in that area. I think one of the things that's helped with Prime is you haven't just learned to teach, but you've also walked the walk. You're still doing it, right? So you've grown yourself as an athlete, right? And so all the things that you're talking about, you're speaking from experience, and then you still do it.
Yeah.
So we look to you as a person that you're accomplished as an athlete, right? You're accomplished as a father, and you're still new at it. You're growing, right? But you share these achievements, right? And so people don't necessarily feel alone in these walks, right? You've been where we are in fitness. Even those who are fathers that have been fathers before you, we now feel like you're part of our club, right? And then even as a family man, you're demonstrating how you're navigating all of the different compartments in your life, right? And still being a good husband, right? A good father, right? A good trainer. And that gives us a sense, of encouragement, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, if you're going to lead, you got to walk the walk. And sometimes you lead very strong-minded people like me, but I'm looking toward your actions more than anything that you say.
Yeah. Two things, and we're going to wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Number one, for a person that may be stuck or isolated,
Yeah.
what would you say to them about becoming the better version or the best version of themselves?
Yeah. Pray on it. Find community. Find community of people who are like-minded, who have similar goals, and force yourself to come outside that bubble, right? Because things that grow you aren't comfortable. There are people like me. I'm not always comfortable going into new communities, right? But I stretch myself because I want to grow, right? So you make a decision, and I just continue to come back. Find your community and keep showing up.
That's beautiful. I think I'm going to end every podcast this way. Mm-hmm. And it's a very broad question, but I think each individual will have their own unique response. If you could build the perfect version of yourself spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally, what would that look like? And then what can I do to help you become that?
That's an excellent question. I think if we talk physically, I think we're already on that track, right? I think we're already on that track. Personal conversations and consultations like this, I think even take it to the next level. And I know that's hard to do when you got a lot of people, right? Mentally, I think that's something that I have to do, right? Check-ins are great though, but mentally it's just a reminder of who I am, right? And who's God created me to be, right? Emotionally, I think I'm still in process, right? I know how to be tough. Everybody knows that about me, right? I know how to be strong. That's a given, right? But then I got to learn how do you balance that out with something else, and I'm figuring that out. That's still part of my growth and development, right? Because you can't just be strong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then when I think about outside of here, and when I think about my daily number one priority, is being a father, right? So you allowing me to bring my kids in here, that's big. That's big. I think we need to know, fathers need to know, it's okay if you don't have time to come without your kids today. And bringing them in here is a positive thing. We welcome it, we encourage it, because that's also allowed me to show my son in particular how important fitness and health and commitment, right? And pushing ourselves to become stronger in growth is important to us as men, right? And just us as human beings, right? We want to live long, we want to be strong, we want to be here for our families.
Yeah, that is good, man. One thing that I'll leave you with, and something that I'll leave you guys with, is have the audacity. What does that mean? Have the audacity to do. Have the audacity to seek God. Have the audacity to bring your kids on the journey. Have the audacity to cry. Have the audacity to just do it. Because I think oftentimes people are afraid of being told no or the negative outcome. But if you have the audacity to just do it, it'll work out.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for being here with me today on Shifts and Stories. Mario Browne, thank you for being here.
Appreciate
you. You guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, send it to your friends. Peace. What's going on, guys? Desmond Scott here. Again, thank you so much for watching the podcast. Do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, hit me up on social media at Desmond L. Scott. And if you're interested in any transformation programs, the link is in the bio.